Hello, everyone. This is Truth and Oneness Discussions with Enlightened Living.
Oh, yes.
All right, so we're going to do another Nithyananda video because I would like to share some interesting information that I think people would find helpful. I don't know. So let's go back to, let's see. Actually, will you take over for a second?
So, there's been interesting things coming down, especially for us personally and whatnot. It's like, and we'd like to share kind of like some of the things and some of the interactions back and forth about like, um, different things that we've encountered.
Yeah, I do want to say, so yeah, I know I've done a few videos so far, and I kind of gone from, well, I'm pretty sure he's an enlightened being, a person or something, to, I mean, I don't really know, I guess, but I would say you could be tapping into some energy or dimensional energy somehow from some realms and pulling energy, or maybe just pulling energy from all of your disciples and followers. I don't know, you know what I mean? Or uh, maybe what I was seeing was perhaps how he was back in the day. I don't know, because I feel like, kind of like what Sarah Landry and some of his other ex disciples have said when they initially started to listen to him. This was like over 10 years ago, most of them, and he was kind of just actually teaching people, and so his the narrative has changed quite a bit since then, and I think maybe people, I'm just wondering, like, is that kind of the energy when someone comes to him and, like, feels like he's telling the truth, if that's kind of the energy they're tapping into at first? Or obviously, all his disciples and workers and whatever believe in what he's doing, and so that strong belief is all over the place, and so you tap into that belief that what he's doing is true or whatever. So, still, I don't 100% know. I just know that from my experience that I've had here, definitely there's some scam artist stuff going on. Obviously, I can't speak to, or at least about, some other people's experiences with the whole, a lot of what Sarah Landry talked, because I obviously never lived there, so I'm only obviously talking about my experiences of someone who's attended a couple of programs. I've only really known about all of this for, like, what's it been, like 2 or 3 years now? So, going from there. So, actually, I wanted to start with, if anyone wants a history of, I guess, what my involvement, you can listen to my other really long, boring videos on Nithyananda. But now, the main reason why I want to share this is because it's interesting. I mean, I feel like it's pretty objective, but pretty clear, sort of. So most people that listen to these videos, Nithyananda fraud videos, already are aware that there's some fraudulent things going on. But obviously, if you have friends or family or anyone who may not be fully aware, this is probably a good story to share with them, just so they get more perspective on, where they're putting their money or donating to, or what they're putting their energy into. But anyway, so yeah, I wanted to kind of start with, well, everyone else's stories are good too, I think, but just because I feel like, what were you gonna say something?
Yeah, it's like everyone's story is unique and they're definitely good stories too. But it's like this is one's gonna be a very personal account of like what we've been dealing with, and the reason why I've seen that people are attracted to him is like the energy that people are pouring into him almost turns him into like this no more people that point toward him and give their energy to him turns him into a bigger magnet, and like the more people that do it, like the more like he generates and whatnot. Like that's the idea of like kind of energy. It's like it's easy to,
Energy flowing, and
yeah,
yeah.
it's like he can be a very charismatic person, but it's like
As many people have mentioned, he can also be just the opposite of that,
yeah,
apparently.
it's like
So,
he when you have great power, it does take a lot of responsibility, and like that's where things have started to change, and then this is where these accounts come into play.
because you're not taking responsibility for the power that you're taking from people or whatever, I guess. All right. So I want to, because this is interesting for me, is that I always have kind of dreams that are sort of like telling, dreams that are very telling about
Very
things,
prophetic.
if that's what you want to call them. I feel like they dreams that give you a heads up, quote unquote. But I've had several dreams throughout my interactions with Swamiji. I think there's probably a few main ones I want to just hopefully really briefly go over. So this is not like a really long video, but and then I'll start from the dreams, and I'll just to show that you should listen to yourself and your inner guidance and your dreams and whatnot, because they do. If you do have dreams that are kind of suggest things to you, there may be some they may be trying to tell you something. But I just thought these were interesting, so I figured I'd go ahead and tell them. But I remember, so the first time I came across Swamiji, I think I had a few dreams where, in the dreams, he was giving some sort of guidance or direction, and those were like, okay, so he must be, obviously something, because these were the type of dreams I put in the category of real contact or something real going on, because I have different types of dreams. But anyway, so those, so there's probably a couple like that. But what it starts to get interesting is, I think this was right before I went to Paramashivoham. So I went to Inner Awakening, and I think it was a year and a half later, I went to Paramashivoham, December 2018. So I think it was right before that, or maybe during that, that I had a weird dream. And in the dream, his energy or being about him was like really like forceful and violent with somebody, and like almost like they violated this person in like a really weird way. And I was like, wow. And from the dream I was like, wow, that's really interesting. I don't know what that meant. Isn't he supposed to be like a good guy? But in the dream it was like I get to go over the details, but that would take too long. But so basically that was kind of the gist of that dream. His presence or energy in the dream was very forceful and kind of like violent, and kind of like what I'd say, taking advantage of some individual, whatever. Okay, so there was that, and it was on an energy level. It wasn't like physical. It was energy in the dream even. And so there was that one. And then after Paramashivoham, some shortly after, it was like when I got back in January, I think it was even still, I had this very interesting dream where I have sometimes have these weird dreams where I'm seeing things like being filed into like the sky. I don't know how to really describe it. It's almost like records or something that I'm looking at as they're coming from the sky. But anyway, so I see, and this was a dream where it's almost like a lucid dream. Like I literally, it was more real than real life to me, like walking around and looking at the stuff outside. It was one of those kinds of dreams. But anyway, so I see the statues, like I see information coming out. I'm trying to like grasp like what is this information that's coming like through like the sky or whatever. It's hard to explain, but it's really interesting to watch. Mm-hmm. And I see his statues coming out too, and they're coming and kind of going down to, and like other information from him. And so just from looking at it and get like the way, there wasn't any specific information except that what I was getting from it was sort of some sort of like dishonesty about the information, or like not being what they say it is. Something. What is that word? I'm trying to look for some specific word. I should have taken notes here. Not dishonest, but fraudulent. I mean, I guess you could call it.
It's like distorted information.
Distorted information. Maybe that's a good way to put it. Something was really distorted about the information that was coming through. Like wasn't really coming from him. It wasn't his real original. I don't know. It was something weird, but like whatever it was made me not trust something about the whole Swamiji thing. And then right after that scene, I'm in a room, and there's all these like entities, low frequency people and entities or whatever in a room, in my room, and I'm like, okay, I'm trying to ignore them and see how I can get rid of them. And then I start playing the hymns from like the was it Sadguru Mandalam, or one of the hymns from the Swamiji gives us to tell, and then they disappear. And then from that, so I'm like, that's weird. So like chanting the chants that he gives us make these low frequency entities go away, but like there's still something fraudulent about it. Like, so I was like trying to piece together like what's going on here. There's parts of it that sure, maybe helpful to your vibration or frequency, depending on how you use it, I guess. But there's a big portion of it that seems to be not coming from maybe a good place. So that was that dream. And then fast forward to, I'm pretty sure this was after Sarah Landry's first Nithyananda fraud video. And I was kind of like, what? What's going on here? She's one of his biggest disciples. What the heck? And so I was like, what in the world? Is this like, is she real? Is she being like truthful? Is she telling the truth? Or is she just like making up stuff? And then, so shortly after that, but still, I was like, wow, this is really interesting that, like, kind of just thinking about the mindset of, like, being in the organization and, like, realizing that, okay, so you go from being a devoted disciple to, like, all of a sudden, like, no, this is complete BS. But so I was, like, wondering, so what in the world is this about? So, and then from there, I was, like, shortly after that, I had a dream where, so in the dream, and I'm just going to give a summary because the details is going to, like, take too long. But in the dream, I'm either going to him as a disciple for some sort of like teaching or something, and they say that so he's dead, he's died, but and they show his picture where he died, and but he was like a younger version of himself, like 20 or 25 version of himself, and his body is held in this tomb where he is, I guess, going to be resurrected at some point at some point in time, but at the moment he's not alive, or he's kind of not alive. So I don't know what that was about, but that was interesting, just showing that the time of, or when he died. And I wonder if that ties to sort of like the time frame also, when maybe up to that point he was trying to be sort of truthful or just teaching people, because that's around the time when I think maybe things start to turn with him. And I don't, there's a lot of things that obviously, when you come to this physical realm, and maybe your first intentions aren't to be corrupt, but things happen in life and turn the tables for a turn. I don't know. But and then the dream after that, um, I'm again going to him as a disciple, and maybe I think I'm bringing someone with him. We're going to see him for some sort of teaching, and his form is like so like distorted and corrupted. Like, he has like all these weird physical elements. He kind of reminds me of just like a crazy like old lady. Like, this is the best way I can describe it. Like, just a belligerent kind of crazy old lady that's just like talking about stuff that's not even true, and like saying, ooh, blah blah blah, kind of like just making up stuff basically. And I'm like, what is up with you? Like in the dream, like, why are you not, well, you're telling like stuff that's not true or whatever, you know what I mean? I'm like trying to figure it out in the dream. Like, why are you like this? Why are you physically like this? Like, what's wrong with your body? Like, what's wrong? What's wrong with your mind? The mind was not there at all, basically. So yeah, those were some interesting dreams, and I just thought those were interesting because if I actually, follow those dreams a little bit, I think it kind of. If I look at him now, I kind of correlate him from the dreams to, to how he acts and how he is now. Like, something's gone downhill real fast, and I don't really know exactly, but I'm sure the people that have actually been disciple or like living with him, been Hadi Navasis and all that, they probably, I mean, they seem to know more of the story, but whatever, you can listen to them. But anyway, so that's just my perspective of it. So anyway, so now let's see, when I was at Paramount Shivoham last year, they had a yoga program that I was going to pay for, and I did pay for, but then like a few days after I paid for it, they canceled it and said they were going to reschedule it for a few months out. So I'm like, okay, that's fine. Then when they reschedule it, fine, we'll probably go to it then. Long story, was a long story short. Fast forward, there it is. Fast forward, they didn't reschedule the program. It's like March or April, May, and they started rescheduled, and then come like midsummer, obviously they're trying to like, you should donate that money to SJP or whatever. If you guys don't know what SJP is, watch some of Sarah Landry's videos. But like, they're basically trying to get me to donate the money, or like, I'm like, no, I think eventually I'm just like, you know what, I think I'll just have you guys can just refund it to me since since obviously you haven't rescheduled the program. And oh boy, you could see like the the ship sinking when I said that. But so basically, since about midsummer last year, I've kind of been going back and forth with them about me getting a refund. I've sent them many emails, their accounts department, and it's kind of gone from where I've had to send them like email almost every other day, and then they finally get back to me like, oh yeah, you're gonna get a refund, and yeah, we're getting them processed and blah blah blah, and then hear nothing from them for like a month or two, and then I have to contact some of the other people that I know, who are in the organization still, and be like, can you figure out what's going on with this? And then they'll contact them and they get back to me and say, yeah, they're working on it now. They just need information. They actually have a whole group of people they need to refund, and they're working on it. And then it always comes back to there's delays in processing and blah blah blah, and then it also always comes back to, oh, there's a new program coming up, you should put the money toward the program. And I'm like, no, I would like it refunded. And they're like, oh, okay, yeah, sure, we'll refund your money. So basically, I guess the long story here is that don't give them money if you're wanting to get it back at all. Okay, even for something like a canceled program, I don't know. I don't know if they're ever gonna refund me my money back. Um, I don't really care, to be honest with you. Um, at this point, I kind of just want to see how much does it take from someone to just get something back from you guys that doesn't belong to you. You know what I mean? Like this is completely. It shows their true colors. Okay, obviously, if you didn't think before that all they wanted was just money, then I think this is a pretty clear indication that really all they want is money.
And the thing that's funny too is like every time that they're like, "Hey, there's a new program," it's not like, "Hey, there's a new program that costs like less or the same as this that we have to refund." It's always, "Hey, there's a new program that costs more than you have with us right now that you're trying to get back. So would you be willing to pay us more?" Which is very funny to me because it's like, okay, so not only you're not giving me my money back yet, but you're asking for more money.
Yeah, the first time I got a call from one of these people, it was like it's been like 6 months me trying to get in contact with him to get a refund, and they call him like, "Oh, this is regarding your refund. So there's an amazing thing that's going on right now. Swamiji is finally doing Paramoshibokam 2. It's gonna cost all this money. Would you like to put your refund toward that?" And I'm like, no, I would like my refund back. Yeah, it's always it's like the same old like storyline, and it's just really interesting because it's like this is showing kind of their true colors, if you know what I mean. And the recent one, because I haven't obviously haven't heard anything since the Paramoshibum 2 started, and they're supposed to. Oh, they actually said in writing and in person over the phone that yeah, we're gonna get our refunds back in March. The people, me and the other group of people, I guess that they owe refunds to. March came and went and nothing, and of course their excuse now is because of the lockdown. Because of the virus, they can't go anywhere and do process stuff, and so. I'm like, okay, so then you guys will figure something out and then get back to us, I guess? Or are you going to wait till after? But recently, I guess they're having another program, and she sent me some recordings basically about how, and I actually recorded it because I wanted to hit on, just in case I wanted to put something together just of how ridiculous they sound, because they do sound really ridiculous. She goes through this new program about how, it's a new happening, it's wonderful, amazing, and all you have to do is pay 10% of your income. They know a lot of people don't have money right now, so all you have to do is pay either 10%, or you don't have to pay anything right now, but you can pay later. So basically, they get you hooked in, and then you owe the money for who knows how long. But and it's either 10% of your income or $15,000, and it's online, 16 hours, so 16 days, 1 hour a day. And if anyone's been to some of their programs in India before, the most expensive one I went to, I think, was 12,000, and it was 3 weeks long. But this is like almost it's every day, probably 20 hours a day of like stuff going on, And so to condense that down to an hour a day, only 16 days, and it costs $15,000. Like if you want to just like, I guess, roll that around with the value of that, I'm like, wait a minute, what?
It's like it's funny because you're not there in person either. And then they keep talking also about like how Swamiji hasn't gone to one of these programs personally in 2 years, and they're like, now he's gonna go there in person for this program. It's like, but it's online, so it's like, okay, so I get to see him like copy and paste videos to people, or like he might do a recording for me personally. But you want me to pay how much now? And it's like, and it's still he's not there in person for me. It's like he's just there recording. He could be literally anywhere. And
Yeah.
like this is one of their big selling points is he's back.
He's back.
I'm like, he hasn't been there for 2 years, and it's like he's found a way to make money without actually being on site. So he's like, this is great. Like he's never gonna come back.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I really, anyone who listens to this, basically, I really don't want anyone to, um, get into a situation where they pay for something and are wanting and expecting a refund. And I wouldn't even donate money to this organization just because of how they handle money situations. How I've seen with my own eyes how they're willing to just pretty much steal money from people and make every excuse on how to not give it back and ask for more. Like clearly, their donations, even their donations, they're tainted as far as I'm concerned. So I wouldn't even donate money to them. Um, but of course, people, you should do what you want. But anyway, and so this last video that she sent, or she message that she sent me, she was like, you're what they use the whole line that you're a true seeker. You found Swamiji. A purpose. There's a reason why you found Swamiji. You need to do this program. The reason why you haven't gotten your refund is because of incompletions that you have with Kailas or whatever, I don't know. So you need to do this program to complete your incompletions, and once you do that, it will definitely make sure that you manifest the money and blah blah blah. I'm like, what? Like, did you really just say that in this? Like, are you serious? But from that, what I sent her back, basically, I just said, I didn't want to bring up that. Any like poor me situation because like I said, I don't really care if they ever refund the money. What I'm mostly interested in is if they will ever refund someone their money is kind of what I'm really interested in. And so I wanted to kind of just say, um, okay, so basically what I said was, well, neither my husband and I are working right now. We have kids to take care of. We basically need money to take care of our kids and whatever. So I really just want a refund back. And then I put in here that donated to the organization attended programs, and I'm just asking for money for something a program you guys cancel. That seems fair, right? And then I was like, so your lockdown is the excuse still? I was like, well, what was your excuse, since midsummer last year? Like, what was the excuse then? Why did it take so long for you guys to get to it? And I said, which I've said to them before, and no one, of course, they don't answer. And then I said, I know that they have, and they have a bank right on their compound in India. It's like that bank does not deal with money. Like what is that bank there for then? You can't just walk across the compound to that bank and deal with money. And then I said, and they have plenty of ashrams and affiliates here in the United States. They can't figure out how to arrange a refund for somebody and then, figure the paperwork out later for that. And so that's what I wrote her back, and that was like 3 or 4 days ago, and she hasn't said anything back since then. So this is how these people act, okay? This has kind of been the ongoing process um, of basically complete ignoring. The accounts department doesn't email me back. No one says anything to me unless I badger them for a few days in a row, and then and also if I get stooped to their level and I start speaking their language of incompletions and stuff, and them not being, true to Hinduism. If I say something like that, then they'll get back to me real quick, and then try to flip the table or whatever. So these people are like nuts. I mean, they really are. They really are nuts. It sounds like the way they handle things is not, you know, like you can't call yourself a spiritually enlightened organization though you're really here to help people become enlightened unless you become. I mean, if this is how you treat people and this is how you deal with people's money and whatever, you're willing to just like take people's money and stuff. You know what I mean? So at the very least, I want whoever listens to this to get this out of it. And like I said, most people that listen to this video, I'm pretty sure, are already like, this is a fraudulent organization. So they probably already know. But maybe this is a good video to send to your friends that don't know it, just so they can kind of see a real life kind of like objective situation. um, and just see how they just deal with, money, that isn't theirs. And that's, I think, enough to show people that this is not something they want to be putting their energy into. And that's really what it's about. It's like they're hoarding people's energy, and they're sucking people's energy dry out of them, really. Um, and then another thing that was interesting, because they always say that you found Swamiji for a reason. You're a true seeker, and this is you need to come and whatever. And I was like, well, does it ever occur to you? Did it ever occur to you actually that yes, sure, I'm a true seeker, and we found Swamiji for a reason, but maybe the reason is to go to Swamiji and kind of fill out the situation and realize that it's a bunch of BS, and then go and like enlighten the world about that, kind of like what Sarah Landry and like a lot of other people have done. They've gone there and saw for their own eyes and experienced it, and then decided, or figured that, wait a minute, this isn't exactly what they say it is, and then tell everyone else. Maybe our mission here on Earth as true seekers of enlightenment um, is to show people that this organization and organizations like it, people don't need this. You don't need this to find enlightenment. You don't need someone else to tell you. You don't need to give all your money to someone, and follow their rules and blah 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 for you to reach enlightenment. Okay, yeah.
I think it's interesting. I always thought it was funny too. It's like I had a problem with early on was they're like, okay, here's what you need to do: manifest money, give it to us, because you're gonna manifest more than that later on for yourself. We're gonna help you manifest more later on, but you give us now your money that you have. And I was just like, wait a second. Why don't you guys manifest more money from yourselves? It's like, why are you asking for our money immediately and then telling me that I'll get money from the world later? It's like, isn't that kind of a given? I mean, if I work for it, I guess I'm getting it. But it's like, why do you need mine a large sum now? Why don't you manifest it doing something else?
It's kind of like the whole. I mean, when you think about it, it's kind of like how they say the control systems of this realm right now are going, which are crumbling at the moment, by the way, which is pretty obvious, right? But how they basically use, kind of like the Matrix, they use they use the energy of people to keep themselves running. We go out and do the work and work 9 to 5 and pay our money to the government
Mm-hmm.
and like all that to keep it up and running. Like it's the same thing, really, on a different scale. But I don't know if they would ever admit that to themselves. But they need to soon, because I think, just like with most of the corruption that's kind of being revealed to people during these times, it's, I think, going to be one of those.
Yeah.
You know?
Definitely. It's like if people stop generating that energy for this organization, it'll just fall apart instantly, because it's like if it was truly an enlightened place, you don't need other people to kind of validate or energize you. You just would, and then it would just like kind of like attract and build. It wouldn't be like, hey, give me your stuff for me because I'm amazing.
And they say they're trying to uphold, traditional whatever, but a lot of traditional gurus didn't like take everything from people. And I think when they did start doing that, I'm pretty sure that's when the corruption started. That's, I haven't researched it much or anything, but I feel like that would be, I feel like a real person who's trying to really give people some knowledge is not going to be like, here, pay me a ton of money and then I will give you some knowledge, some very sacred, important knowledge for your soul. You know what I mean?
And I'm gonna only give you a piece, so you can come back and pay me more. Like, no, it's like the idea of all these things was like, hey, let me help you, and then, oh, you're willing to give me something in return, like, oh, you're gonna give me some food or some shelter or something like that. Thank you. I will give you some information. I will guide you also. It's like there's
Yeah,
no like, hey,
that's fine.
give
Yeah.
me a golden palace because I'm amazing, and now that you've done that, give me all your food, give me all your friends' food, give me all of your cousins' food. Like, no, that's like ridiculous.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of ridiculous to ask people for any kind of money, knowing that a lot of people don't have jobs and stuff right now. To ask for anything really from like, how are you even asking for their talking about for their program they're going on right now, or the programs that they're doing right now online? It's like, how can you ask, and then for that much money, $15,000 or 10% of your income, just so that whatever. Like, how can you do that? Like, I couldn't consciously do that to, it baffles the mind. But it's very telling though, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's just something for people to kind of think about because it's like that says a lot more than just like asking for money. There's a lot of information to unpack from just that situation. Like that's just one person's situation. There's a lot of people that have dealt with all these weird kind of things. Like just kind of
Weirder
think about it.
situations and just not getting a refund. But
Or like trying to drag people through the mud because they question you.
yeah, so
Like
I
that's
mean,
not what an enlightened person does.
yeah, so it's like we know what's up. If you're on the fence about it, do your research and do what you feel that you need to do inside. Like I said, going to the programs, I felt for me was a stepping stone, one step to the next, as far as like awakening my consciousness. It could have been a different program though. I could have done something else, I'm sure, and gotten the same thing. But this is what I did, and I did get something out of it. So I'm not saying it's completely useless, the information that at least they were giving back then. I don't know about really now. I don't know. Um, and that was only a few years ago. So it's like ultimately you have to do what your inner being is calling you to, but try not to get trapped in situations where you're hooking yourself up to plugging yourself into an energy siphon where like you literally give everything of you to something and all of your money to something and don't donate to organizations that aren't even willing to give people a refund back. Okay. um, but yeah, we're all in this together. It's all about just we're in a time right now where there's a great awakening happening, really. Like we're really literally opening our eyes to the truth of like the duality in our existence. Um and it's not, I'm not trying to point fingers and say that some things this is good or bad, but just see things for what they are, really, and then you can make more informed decisions on how you want to experience life, really, is what it's about. But yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to wrap it up. Always look to see what things are to you. Just not good and bad. It's just like just choose where you'd like to be and what you like to associate with.
Yep.
Anything like that?
Nope. Have a good day, everyone.
All right.